Hey, Jack.
Orange Theory.
How's it going?
How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. You off the AI kick?
Oh,
Open
geez.
AI. I'm sorry
Yeah, the whole saga was exhausting to say the least. But yeah,
for everyone, right?
yeah. It's funny. Tim and I were talking about that yesterday, and it was basically just like, oh yeah, essentially, if you were on a remote island and were completely disconnected, and then you came back, like essentially nothing happened. A couple people left
Yeah.
the board, but aside from that, not much happened.
But nobody knew, right? So nobody knew what the heck was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole, all the nonsense with the, is AGI coming, Q star, A star, all this stuff. At the end of the day, we're full steam ahead. Nothing's stopping us or derailing. And
You
I
know what
mean,
I? You know what I found out today on accident? I found out who is another Stammer customer.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I work closely with them in a different project,
oh
but
funny,
I was like, that looks so familiar.
oh that's funny. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna start to see a lot more of that, of people trying to say that they started their own thing, and then you look behind the scenes and they're just white labeling Stammer the whole time. But
No, that's good for you.
yeah, I don't mind. So, hey, Alex.
Hey.
Alrighty. So we got a little bit more of a structure meeting today. We're going to be going over the latest release notes. Then we're going to be going over what we're working on next. And then we're going to be going over some materials and documentation that I've been working on that is going to lead us into the first agency strategy call for all paying customers this Thursday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So the same time slot as today. And essentially, we're going to be covering everything from how to acquire customers, how to close those customers, and then how to use those customers to get referrals and then increase lifetime value. So, kind of the entire process of how to run an agency, all optimized for our specific use case, which is implementing AI into a business. That way, they can increase revenue, decrease costs, and increase customer satisfaction. So, the first thing today is update version 16. So as we kind of predicted a couple weeks ago, once we got some of these larger features enabled, the speed at which we're picking up the speed at which we're picking up development is increasing again. So over the next few weeks, we should start to see a lot more smaller updates all packaged together into a lot more releases. So this is one that we essentially started 2 weeks ago or about a week ago, and now it's out. Now it's available. So now, Tim, you should be rocking and rolling now with euros, British pounds, and Canadian dollars. And then for anybody else, we can add essentially any currency. And so for context, this is the ability for you to set your own currency for your subscription packages. So when you're an agency and when you connect your account to your Stripe account, you can now set your local currency, whatever that may be. And then that's the currency that your customers will be paying you in, essentially. So before it was just US dollars, but now we have British pound, euro, and Canadian dollars. And like I mentioned earlier, as long as Stripe allows it as a currency, we can add it in. So just let us know. But that should be good. I'm going to mute you, Bill. There's just some background. Let us know if you have any questions. Second up is multiple intervals for availability. So this is the scheduling feature that we've been working extremely hard on. The main reason why we wanted to get out the initial version of scheduling, just like we do everything with our platform, is in building blocks. So when we first released scheduling, it was just the ability to add a certain time slot in different days. Now you have the ability to set multiple time slots in different days. And the reason why we want to be able to do this is, a little selfish, but it's also customers are asking for it, but it's allowing for group scheduling or group meetings. So for example, like the one that we are all on right now, we would be able to set that up as a meeting that is the one that the chatbot is trying to schedule people to. And so that's one of the things that we're working on after we have just added the ability for multiple intervals. Tim, is there anything you want to add on that one?
No, I think you covered it perfectly.
Perfect. Next up is we have the extension of white label documentation. So this is one of the things that a lot of people were asking about or did themselves in some variation. And we figured who not better than ourselves to provide that for you. So for everybody that's on the full white label SaaS plan, you now have the white label documentation. And so essentially that is going to give you the ability for your sub accounts to see information about the platform, but it's all going to be branded to you. So again, if I'm in app.stammer.ai, everything is going to be shown in Stammer. But now if you see that once you get your custom domain connected, there's going to be a little thing up here that says you go log into your white labeled version. When you do that, when you log into your white labeled version, all the links and everything is now going to be white labeled. So when I go into a sub account and now I go into documentation, I can see that everything is now white labeled to my agency. And this is all throughout the documentation, throughout everything. So your domain and your name is going to be implemented throughout all of this text. That way your clients are interfacing with you and this information. And basically, this is just the general information about how to create a bot, what the knowledge base is, how the leads scheduling, appearance, training, all basically the entire basis or the core sections of the platform and how all of that works is now just right there for everyone to see. This is a huge addition, and it should hopefully help cut down on any support tickets that you guys might get. So let us know if you like to change anything, update stuff. We're going to be adding more to this over time. So, but that's out for everybody on the full SaaS mode. Okay, moving right along, we've got new user sign up on Webhooks. So this is for the free trials, right, Tim?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So now when you are utilizing the free white label free trials, you can have a webhook send the data that is captured. So it's going to be their name and their email address. And then that information could be sent to your CRM to update a pipeline if that's when you want to basically start tracking new leads that are added to your system. And then similarly, we have the appointment scheduling webhook. So now this is going to be updated to also include the lead data. So this was a very small change, but this is an incredibly powerful change, actually. So when a lead starts interacting with a chatbot and we start gathering its information and extracting the data from the conversation, we can send that data to the webhook when all of that information is captured just like normal. Okay. Now, after we capture that lead's information, we can then have the AI work to schedule a meeting with that user, just like normal. When a user finds a time slot and then confirms and then provides their email address and then confirms, that information for that event will be sent to the webhook. This update now allows both of those two sends of data to be combined into one. So what happens is the lead information is collected, all the questions plus their email and all that. And then the event information, the meeting link, the time slot and the name. And then I think there's like ID or something in there as well. All of that information is now compiled into one JSON that you can then send to a webhook. So the use case or the value add here for all of us agencies is now we have another action that we can use to update our CRM and update the pipeline to when meeting is booked with the information that they have submitted in that specific chat. And this is mainly so that way everybody that's using GHL, they have it. Everyone now has an easier way to basically pull in all of that data and then make sure it's all attributed to the right user with the right email, with the right questions answered and the right event, all automatically. So hopefully that made sense. If you're deep in the GHL game, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because, for example, you can't have just random information be sent without a email, customer ID, or phone number in GHL. So this solves that. Any questions on that? If you guys, I know some GHL heads are in the chat. Drew, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Graham?
I missed obviously the beginning, but no, I've got the gist of it. And
Okay.
yeah, I agree with GHL. You can't send stuff that doesn't go anywhere logically. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like when customers ask us this, like, oh, how does it integrate in GHL? Like, this is how we integrate with GHL, because fundamentally we know where GHL breaks or doesn't work. And so we've built stuff into our platform to basically solve for where they're lacking.
Their version of AI is absolutely, it's ridiculous. It's going to break at some point in the system. There's so many bits to it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they, for all intents and purposes, they have an incredible team, an incredible development team, but they rushed their AI incredibly fast. And it's like you said, it shows.
A couple of people have done very well from selling it, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, and it's similar to the demos that I see of some of these other apps that are out there. The demos that people can make are incredible, but then when you actually go to use them in real life, they tend not to be what the demo is.
Quite frequently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a good, go ahead. Sorry.
The one I sent you the link to the other week. I mean, it looks very impressive on the outside until you actually realize that it doesn't actually any of the things it shows you. It does.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Tim and I were talking about this. There's one that was going super viral this last week, a side tangent, where it was like, I think called TLDR draw. And it was like a video where you could, just draw something or add in a sketch of a UI, and then the AI would take that sketch and then make the actual UI or make the image. And I'm like, oh, this is going to change everything. I go and try it out, and I put in my prompt and I try to do the thing. And it reminds me of like Mid-Journey 2, where there's like, 10 fingers coming out of my hand, and like it's all over the place. So I'm like, how are they making these demos so good? And as a company that has done this in the past, like, we've made our demos to be perfectly good. If you go and test them, they follow up. Like, it's to a T what our demos are. Like, the demo is what's live on the site. So the concept of like, how are they making these? I think they're just making them up. It's not actually a production level of their app
involved in the story.
Yeah. And I think that's why this is a perfect segue into what we are continuing to work on, which is the marketplace. So the marketplace is going to be the main place where we can provide these demo bots for everyone to use, and then one-click clone into your account for free, and then be able to use and modify the prompt as necessary, knowing that it's been built and battle tested from our internal team. Mm-hmm. So the whole goal of this is basically to make it easier for agencies and our users and customers to figure out, and end up with a working solution more quickly than what you can do now.
Can we ask for requests?
Of course.
Oh, cool. Because certain things obviously work in Europe or UK, shall we say, like, for example, realtors and estate agents, things like that. It's a similar, but it's different. So the prompts and things need to be different.
Definitely. And especially with like color, COU, you got color, using S instead of Z and stuff like that. So yeah, and what we could do is add one in there and then put like UK version. And then everyone that knows that that's the UK version. And when you clone it into your account, there's now there will be comments in the base system prompt, which are instructions that inform us as users or agencies as to what the prompt is doing. So this will also help us with our customers, me as one of you guys as an agency. It will help us get our customers to understand what these base system prompts are doing. Because at the end of the day, every single platform is kind of beholden to prompting. And if we don't have a good way to explain, and this is every company in this space is dealing with this right now. How do we give good prompts? How do we provide, and most of it is all locked down, where we're trying to provide it where we give you that functionality, but we're not trying to expose it to where people can just mess it up, so to speak. Tim, can you jump in there on that?
No, I mean, I thought you explained it very well. Basically, I mean, the base system prompt is everything, right? And if you try to get away from not, well, for two things. If you try to get away from not allowing the customer to edit the base system prompt, you then lose a lot of that customizability, right? And the base system prompt is very, very powerful. But on the flip side, it's also very difficult to build a base system prompt if you never have. So with that in mind, that's why we've decided to take the approach of building the marketplace, which is essentially going to be a marketplace of ready to go base system prompts and the other settings that you have for our chatbots, our AI agents. And it'll make it very easy for you to, us to provide a base system prompt to you that's ready to go. So you could either just clone it and start using it, or you take it and make some minute modifications to it for your niche use case and either add it back to the marketplace or just start using it for yourself. And that's exactly why we're building it. It's very similar to the concept of, an app marketplace or a library like Zapier of ready to go zaps or whatever they call them that you can just, it gives you an idea, right? And it'll also be very good for ideation. So it'll help you know, oh, this is possible. Here's how they do this. And here's an example well documented that I can take, modify for my use case, and just start using.
And I think as we continue to use OpenAI and ChatGPT as the professor of our market, quote unquote, where they are educating the masses in terms of terminology and how these things work and what everything means. Essentially, that is kind of what we're thinking in terms of like the GPT store. So the GPT store is used to showcase functionality in different ways. And that will be used in our use case as well. Because there's a lot of interesting use cases that are outside of just the standard chat functionality. One of the ones that works incredibly well is just sentiment matching. So you can train a bot to have a certain criteria of like, oh, I'm viewing this as a good thing for my business or a bad thing for my business or a positive comment about my business or niche or service or negative, and then be able to not only categorize that, but then generate a response for that. A use case that we could maybe tease is one of the other products that we work on is called Notifier. And it's a product that allows you to track keywords on different social media platforms. And the use case is also lead generation-ish. So what I mean by that is you can set it up to track for things like, oh, my website is broken. And then every time someone sends a comment on Reddit or sends a tweet on Twitter or X that says, oh, my website's broken, it will send you a notification to then respond to. And the idea there is like, oh, that is a person. If I'm a website development agency, I could reach out to that person because, oh, their website's broken. I can help you fix, like, there you go. The idea there where you can combine AI into this is, okay, wouldn't it be cool if the AI knew everything about my business and my offer, and then I could have the AI just know that this was this person had a negative connotation. Oh, my website's broken. That's a negative connotation. I could create a positive response automatically and then send it. And so like, that's where our heads are kind of thinking of like the other use cases for Stammer beyond chat. You could do it for that type of thing.
When's the marketplace going to be accessible? Like, what's the timeline for that for Stammer?
Yeah, before the end of the year, I'd say probably. Tim, what do you think?
Probably sooner than that. I don't like giving dates for multiple reasons, but we always try to shoot for certain things. But this is software development, so you never know what can happen. The complexity could be much more than we expect. Well, not with this feature, to be honest. But yeah, I would say like a week, 2 weeks. It's always, I used to joke that in software development, it's always going to be 2 weeks, right? I guess we could go with that. But ASAP, it's one of our highest priorities. It's only over the past couple of months that we've really realized how essential this marketplace thing is. So we're working on it very hard.
Understood.
I think it will help you stand out in the crowd as well. I think
Point.
they're in a completely different crowd. They're queuing in a different place. Because a lot of these, as you've said, a lot of these bots are just bots. They don't actually do that very much at all. In fact, they're not much more than a glorified SMS system.
Exactly. And still requiring other things to make them work. And that's the main large piece of development that we're working on is direct integrations with the top 4. So Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and then
Is that feasible?
what was the last one? What'd you say?
SMS, is that in
Oh,
principle?
Twilio. Yeah. Twilio would be, yeah. And those were all the things that were on there from like back in probably May. But now that we've got the core functionality there, marketplace and then direct integrations, those are kind of the 2 main things our senior team is working on. But I wanted to show this. That being said, we do say, I did say a month, Tim said a couple weeks. Like if we just look at our release history, we've been releasing at least one release at minimum every week and a half for the last 4 months, 5 months, maybe. So I'm very confident that we'll be able to get marketplace done before the end of the year, and then hopefully even before that, as well as direct integrations. Any questions, ideas, things anybody wants to bring up before I go into the next section?
I have a quick question.
Sorry, Rick.
Yep,
About
Tim.
the UI. So basically, I created a menu bot for a restaurant. And my question is, I've been putting the buttons in on the bottom. I love that, but is there any way to make those responsive? And what I'm saying is, instead of having to scroll to the left to see them all, just have them like stacked on top of each other. You follow?
Got it. So visually, you'd like them to be shown on vertically rather than horizontally. Yeah,
or just be responsive. So if it's on a website, that's one way. And if it realistically, most people are on mobile.
Oh, I see. Yeah. We could add that. That should be fairly easily.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and to add to that, Rick, probably after you've clicked the first question, because it is good, it's a great icebreaker. I love that. Can they disappear? Can they disappear after they click the first question? Because they stay in the chat bubble.
Yeah, we forgot to add that to our list last week. We talked about that about 10 minutes before this call, and I was like, I know either Tim or Lucas. I think Lucas told us last week, but I was like, somebody's going to tell us about that this week. We got it.
Okay, cool. And one other question. So with the currency change, do I have to create new subscription packages, or can I just go in and edit what I have now and change from dollars to pounds or dollars to euros?
It depends. It depends on the Stripe API, to be honest. For our platform, you would have to create new ones. However, we may be able to take your existing and then turn them in, like manually in the database, turn them into the appropriate currency for you. Because if you don't want to create new ones, I just need to figure out if the Stripe API will allow us to do that. Do you know, can you change an existing product to a currency? I've never tried.
Within Stripe, the advice has always been don't mess in Stripe, do it from the Stammer side to push that integration, isn't it? So I can reach out on a separate call and we can do it if you've got.
Yeah, because I assume it'd be a big pain for you to create new ones, right?
Not really. It's just I'd like to know which is the best way to do it. So
I would create new ones if you can. Yeah, that is probably the best approach to doing it. But if for some reason that's a problem, let us know. We can see how easy it is to do it manually. Change them.
Right, thank you.
I'll throw a question in. With regards to the white label documentation, is that going to pull the same language selection from the dashboard?
Good question. I think we
I
think we started with English, right?
That is such a good question, actually. I'm not sure. Let me
check.
Look into that. And
because the next thing I'm going to say on a side note is I don't know if it is because I haven't logged in and seen it. A while ago, you reverted the English to Americanized English. Could British English be an actual language drop down? If that's the case for translation, the documentation as well. So color, Z and S's and da. It just would seem kind of keep the authenticity across the platform.
Let us look into that. That is a bit, because the way we translate today, we actually use ChatGPT to create these translation files. Well, and it depends. Sometimes we've had trouble using ChatGPT to do it for various reasons. But regardless, I'm wondering, is there a clear distinction between British English and American English? I guess it'll know. Will ChatGPT know ChatGPT know the difference? I got to look. I got to do some testing.
I mean, the biggest thing is S and Z, and that's the biggest thing. And I think from what I've seen, color, because obviously we use a U.
But to be clear, like when you, because I don't know, right? I'm not sure. So push back if this is not the case. But when you guys log into like Gmail or a major platform, is it translating it into British English, or is it some standardized?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm from a software background, but in IT, so things like Microsoft and that, British English is its own language. And actually there is a lot of it, because you also get Australian is its own, and there's certain regions around the world. I think there's about 10 different variations, but I would say from a major point of view, American and English are quite the two big ones.
Got it. Okay. Well, I've written it down. We're going to look into it. I don't see why it wouldn't be in theory possible, right? It just depends on us getting those translations and understanding the changes. But based on what you said, it seems like ChatGPT would probably know if it's that distinct of a change, then it should understand that, and we should be able to do that.
So let's add on that issue. Let's add just a language V2, or like language overhaul V2, because documentation is partly translated, which is not good. So like some of the headers are translated, but the actual information is not. So to answer the other question of, is the documentation translated? It is not. So we will add that into this language module as well. And there was also, like, I think several other languages that have been requested since we did the first. So we can get those in as well.
We used it in Spanish, for example. Does ChatGPT work like Google Translate and make a real hash of it and basically just translate words that kind of sound the same? Or does it actually work in a different way, like it actually knows a language?
It does know the language quite well. So we have a Spanish speaker on our team, and we've been using her to evaluate the translations that ChatGPT does. And from what I understand, it's much better. Ross, have you talked about that with her?
I mean, that's basically the same thing.
Okay.
We've been told issues where, you know, in like Hindi and some other languages that are completely unknown to us, there's errors, but our focus has always been on core functionality, not these things. And now that our core functionality has, you know, wrapped up, so to speak, we can now continue to focus on some of these smaller things like we planned a few months ago. So
would it translate from what, if somebody say wrote something in Spanish, could it then translate that into English so somebody else could understand it?
Graham, we've been doing some testing in French, German, Dutch, and Swedish, and all of the responses which are coming back have been verified as being spot on grammatically.
Yeah,
and also with technical information as well. So we've been trying this with an engineering company who've got 14 sites across Europe, so 14 different languages, and they're happy with the responses that they're getting right now.
And that, I mean, that's what OpenAI claims ChatGPT is proficient in. They claim it's, you know, but I think it comes up to that point. Do you have a native speaker to verify? And then if you can, that is, but I think there you go. I mean, that's all the proof I need. 14, you know, however, I mean, that's insane.
That it's never going to be perfect, because then even translation's not perfect every single time.
Yeah. And ChatGPT, even in English, isn't perfect sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
If I may, just quickly. Yeah, I can add to that. Like, I've been trying it in Czech also, which is a pretty uncommon and complicated language in the grand scheme of things. And it worked perfectly, like even abbreviations and and some slang, like it took it quite well. I didn't really notice any issues with the language as far as I'm concerned.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That blows my mind, because how did they get all that data? I mean, they'd had to have a lot of data in Czech. Interesting. I guess is there a lot of websites that are in, what is that language called? Is it just Czech?
Just Czech, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, the country itself has about 10 million in population, so you can kind of get the idea of how much resource or how many resources there would be for that language. But
as well, Czechoslovakia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, from what I've some of my video editors have told me that there's like random Indian village dialects that it knows.
God.
Like, because I don't even want to say the words or the names on this recording because I'm going to butcher them. But like, yeah, I'm not even going to attempt it. Yeah, but they said they could do it, so I was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. All right. Any other quick things or anything? All right. So one of the things that I've been working on is materials for everybody to use to help sell this to their clients better. Helps us understand it, helps you understand it, helps clients understand it. Help like what we're doing, what's the main value, what's the biggest value add, what's the easiest value add for newer agencies as well. And we're not selling an AI chatbot, we're selling a system. And so what is that system? Like, oh, I don't know. Well, I created a visual to hopefully help explain this a little bit better. And this hopefully will some newer agencies started in terms of understanding how you can offer AI services to clients and what that actually does for them. I will be sending this out in the agency chat in Discord and with a high quality version and a Miro link as well. So you guys can check it out and go in deep on this as yourselves as well. So essentially this is the same thing, but in 3 different layers or levels of complexity, or the way I've explained it is in more depth at each different layer. So what we're offering here is AI lead generation for a client. There's 4 different levels. There's the platform that you're using. And typically you have, hopefully a client will have some sort of CRM or something. If they don't, this is another huge opportunity for upselling them to GHL or whatever you might be using. But that's a whole nother video that I'll go into later. But we're assuming that the client has something installed, something more than like a Google Sheets. You could be using Google Sheets, but for the sake of the example, we're just going to use GHL. So Stammer and GHL. We have you as the agency, as the service provider. We have your client, which is the business. And then we have their clients or their customers, which is the end user, the end customer. This is the person that is going to be most often actually interacting with the AI chatbot. So once we have kind of the 10,000 foot view here of here's all the stakeholders and how everything interacts, we need to make it so that way it all works for this person. Mm-hmm. By making it work for this person, we make money, in which you make money, and then you pay to continue to make money, essentially. So simply written out, what is this? What you'll be offering to your clients: a completely done for you system that generates leads, automatically follows up with those leads, qualifies those leads, and then schedules an appointment with those leads directly on your calendar. Works 24/7, 365. And we're going to give you 100% money back guarantee if it doesn't work. And the idea here is you can offer this for free to your clients up front. Especially if you're on the full SaaS mode, you can create trials and create bots for people for free and then install it for them and then say, hey, if it doesn't work, we'll give you 100% money back guarantee, or you don't pay until we generate your first X amount of leads. And so the value of this is it becomes more of an irresistible offer. We're trying to go after that, Hermosi irresistible offer for people to, how can I'd be stupid to say no to this. So that's the goal here. And so what does this actually mean? If I say that we're going to generate leads, follow up with those leads, blah, 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 what does that actually mean? Okay. So, and this is where, then I'm hoping that this visually will make sense once we get down to the 3rd level. So we're going to generate leads, qualify those leads, schedule the appointment, and then update and notify the team, update the agency so everyone's notified. We open this up a little bit further. We can see what each of these things actually means. So there's a couple different ways to generate leads, but the easiest and most cost-efficient way for an agency to do it will be to do Facebook and Instagram lead form advertising. So you can generate leads for a few dollars, and typically a large percentage of these leads might not be that good. And the crux of this, or where this typically fails for typical lead generation or SMMA agencies, is they're expecting their client to follow up with these leads, which absolutely no one ever does. And if you have any sort of clients, you'll know what I'm talking about. So if we can also do the follow-up for that client, our value as an agency starts to increase. So we're generating the leads, and this is what, some businesses might be paying an agency, an advertising agency, a few $1,000s a month for this type of service. Well, if you're just offering it included with your service, then that's a expense that they don't have to pay. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about doing this advertising, and that's again another tutorial. And these are all the types of tutorials and videos and things that we'll be going over in the Thursday agency strategy sessions. So we'll have a whole thing about here's the value, here's how you can create a value resource for your ads to get leads to then follow up with. And so just like we build our platform, this whole thing is kind of a building blocks structure. And once you can get these things in place, you can start duplicating them and replicating them for more clients in your niche. And that's where things start to really take off and scale. So we're going to generate the leads with a Facebook and Instagram lead form. Once that lead comes in, the AI agent is going to have a conversation with the user about the thing that they just opted in for. During this conversation, the AI agent is going to ask a bunch of questions to the user, and this utilizes the lead generation function of the Stammer AI chatbots. It's going to extract the answers from those questions from the conversation to use as information to help qualify the user. And a good example of this, if you want to see this live, is the use case, the lead generation use case on the homepage. This is the real estate example that I've showed a couple times, but this shows exactly kind of an example of information that is asked to the user responds, and then this is information that we can extract from the conversation and send to a CRM and update a CRM. And that is information that we can then use to qualify a user. After, and this is just following this example, so after the information is gathered, the chatbot will work to schedule a meeting. Once the meeting is scheduled, it's added to your calendar, and then all of that information is updated and sent to your CRM and pipeline. So at this point, okay, like I get the gist of this, but technically I still am not clear. Well, I went one further level here to hopefully explain it. So you create a Facebook and Instagram ad. When you do this, the user submits the information. The key here is when you're doing a Facebook and Instagram lead form ad, the information of that Facebook user is pre-filled. So the advantage here is when when the end customer user sees an ad and they click learn more or whatever, and they are brought to a form, their name, email, and phone number are already entered into the form. And that's information that Facebook knows because it's on their Facebook profile. So to the user, all they have to do is click submit, and their information is they have now opted in, versus sending someone to another landing page and then having them manually enter in their name, their phone number, their email address, and then clicking submit. And this is one of the reasons why you can get a lot more leads for less dollars, but it's also why the leads are less quality. And so this brings us back to that first point of like, well, if you're generating a lot of leads, then you're expecting someone to qualify those leads because maybe a large percentage of those leads are not good. That's where the chatbot comes into play, is like we're automating that entire process for the business as well. And this is where like we're stacking value on top of each other to where when we get to the end of this, we've essentially killed potentially the 3 or 4 different agencies that the business could be already paying. The advertising agency, the qualification VA, the appointment setter, like that's 3 VAs right there that you are now going to be automating in this one sequence. So user sees the ad, they submit their form using the automated information that is added. This gets automatically added to your CRM. So in GHL, you can connect your Facebook lead forms to automatically pull down the information that is when a user submits their information via an ad. This is the first trigger that sends a text message, a Facebook Messenger message, or an Instagram DM to that user about what they just opted in for. So an example of this template could be, hey, first name, I saw that you were interested in getting more information about the name of the free value that they just opted in for. So this could be in the real estate example. Hey, John, I just saw that you're interested in getting information about how to sell your home for 20% higher than your neighbor, because who wouldn't want that? That is the first message that allows the user to then respond, which then has the AI take over the conversation. And so this allows it to where we're not spamming users. They have to respond and quote unquote initiate the conversation, at which point the AI is immediately following up with. And so from a user's point of view, they're seeing an ad, they're opting in for that ad. Within 10 seconds, they get this text message, hey, John, or hey, Ross, I just saw. And if I respond right then and there, the AI will then respond within a few seconds. And then that user is having a conversation with the AI within 30 seconds of them opting in for an ad. And the AI is going to do that entire process of asking the questions, gathering their information, going through booking the meeting, extracting all that information, updating the CRM with all the information extracted and their lead information. And when all that information is added and sent to the CRM, then everybody is notified. So the idea here is this entire system not only shows you how to actually, place the AI, where Stammer fits into this sequence, but also giving you a little bit more, visual of, if you can also add this first step of the actual generation of the leads, then it becomes a much easier sell to your client as an agency for doing all this. Questions?
Is that mind map available in the Discord?
It will be later today.
Sweet. And how could I join that Discord, by the way? Is there a link somewhere?
Yeah. It's just stammer.ai/Discord.
Sweet.
I'll put a link in the thing too.
Sweet.
So obviously the source of the lead could be anything. It doesn't have to be Facebook lead ad, but you would then have to insert the name and you'd have to get that information via the bot, wouldn't you?
Correct. Yeah.
Unless it's like database reactivation, and then you've already got that information before you start.
Exactly. And that's I think one of the benefits of structuring it with the lead form ad is because we're gathering those 3 core pieces of information as the opt-in. And when they do that, they have now fully consented for us to contact them. So we don't necessarily need to worry about all the other stuff that might be required if we're pushing people to a website to then do a form to then opt in. The other side of this, you're 100% right, is, and ideally this is what happens. Like you come to a client who already has traffic or who already is getting action, and then you're sitting this in that channel to do that process of following up and qualifying and booking already.
In principle, it's an easier sale because you're just saying, do you want to increase the amount of people without having VA, all those other people in the system?
Exactly. Yeah. And so if they're already doing ads, or if they're already doing any sort of lead generation or traffic generation, the sell or the value add becomes, well, we will generate you higher quality leads without you having to increase your ad spend. It's actually going to go down. Yeah. Because you're going to have to, you'll be able to get rid of that appointment setter, the qualifying VA, and whoever else is managing that process.
So we could hypothetically add figures to that, couldn't we?
What do you mean?
To show conversions, because in reality, we know roughly how much more it will convert. And just if we double what you do, this is going to mean this at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because all the information is packaged together and sent via webhook to the CRM to update it, that can be tagged. This was generated by your agency, or this was like this person was not going to do something, but is now in your pipeline because of me or because of your agency. And I think that's one of the benefits of this is like at that level. And we're also in the background, we're working on adding like a whole suite of analytics
Oh,
that is not available yet, but like we're working on that as well. At where it's at right now, at the core level, it allows you to have full transparent, like the client and you as the agency have full transparency over where that lead is coming from when they were generated. So that way, like, wow, that's a new one. That's a new one. I thought I turned that off. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought. Threw me off.
Full transparency about where the leads are coming from.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Full transparency. Yeah. Yeah. So like it gives the agency just more power. So at the end of the month, for example, like let's say you're doing a full free trial, a full month free trial for whatever, for whatever reason. At the end of that month, you could be like, hey, this is quantitatively the exact amount of leads that our bot generated and qualified, potentially even booked to your calendar. Don't you want to keep doing that? Like, and I think that's kind of where this goes, is if you can sit this into a sequence that is already doing action, but they just need more, which who doesn't want that or need that, then this becomes that no-brainer purchase immediately, and then sets you up to be the go-to agency to then upsell them for, everything.
Other services, yeah.
So would that work for us then, Ross? So if we're selling our bot solution to website owners, let's say, as our AI solution, which is white labeled with Stammer, can we run our own Facebook ads, use that process to show the client exactly how that process might work?
And this works exactly off of one of the examples that one of the other agencies brought up a couple of weeks ago, Connor, I believe. And he was showing us about how he was utilizing that one Facebook model or that one sub-account model where he created an agency within a niche, and then using that same Facebook page to then run ads for clients in different locales, depending on their location, and then sending those leads to that person based off of the qualification steps that we just showed. So as an agency, you could basically do the same thing. You just have to niche down. So you said website development. Do you have like a niche within that? I guess you would niche down into that.
I guess you could do a niche in there. It's more actually to sell the subscription service ourselves, to use that model.
Oh, I see.
So if you're a website, it doesn't matter if you're actually we want to cut out the other web development agencies and direct to their customers to say, look, here's something you can add to your website.
Yeah,
so we could use that process to grow our customer base.
Yeah. Once we have our group scheduling feature out, I'm going to be running ads to that ourselves. Because I want to do this. What we're doing right now is quote unquote office hours, but I want to try to do more of like a salesy version where I'm showcasing more like people that are not aware of the platform at all or whatever it may be. Like, hey, here's an ad that you can do AI appointment setters. Oh, let me see what all this is about. Oh, then I get a message. Oh, you're interested about generating white label AI appointment setters. Oh, great. Now I can join this meeting, and it's a webinar with 13 other people. And that's kind of how I'm thinking of utilizing this for ourselves, which you could then replicate for yourself at the same level. It's just one other level. Does that make sense? Sometimes I realize I'm so like deep in it. Like Tim and I catch ourselves sometimes like, are we even speaking English anymore? Like,
so when's the agency thing starting, Ross? I think you said 19th, or did I get a date? Did I imagine that?
30th. So this Thursday.
Oh, this Thursday.
So there will be an event link that I'll be sending out probably later today, tomorrow to register for it. But I'll be sending out the link like I do for the office hours to the agency chat in Discord. And then
really looking forward to that. Really.
Yeah, me too.
It'll be amazing.
That'd be good fun.
Yeah, there's so many strategies. I've been compiling a lot about cold email and all that, because that's a topic that I see so much wrong information about. So I'm really excited to talk about that one. SEO will be another really good one. I've got some really good tips on that, because that's one of my core backgrounds was I ran a vape website, e-cigarettes vape website for a long time, and that's a heavily restricted industry in the United States, and so advertising is illegal And so we had to rely on solely on SEO essentially to scale and build up that business. So that taught me from a very young professional age on the importance of SEO and some of the core strategies around that. And then over time, how Google has really not forced, but like encouraged this EAT model, the expertise, authority, and trust, and how that aligns with everything that I've been talking about with setting yourself up as the authority figure in your niche for your agency, and then creating content around your products and services. So around the lead generation system. And so if you're doing an agency around a specific niche, creating content around that specific, around that specific topic, and then being able to supercharge that with ads that then promote those ideas and services to attract those potential customers. So my goal is everything is like interconnected somehow, and eventually everything will be revealed, so to speak. But that was probably the fastest hour from my point of view. I know I was talking a lot. Is there any questions? I know we didn't get too much time for that today, but
yeah, I'll help lengthen this a little bit.
Okay, perfect.
My question is, so I have a CRM and it's like GHL. I actually think it's a part of GHL. It's called Clixio. What do I need to be able to connect that to my bots? Just my API from that software?
Yes. So is it a white labeled version of GHL?
I believe so.
Okay. If it's truly that, then I'll send you the tutorial where it's as simple as creating a trigger and then sending that message to the Stammer AI bot and then getting the message back and sending it back to the user. So it's a 3-step automation flow, and it's very simple. And you're essentially just copying and pasting and making sure that things are in the right place.
No zaps involved anymore.
Not for that. You can just do it direct in GHL.
Send me that video as well, Russ, or put it in the Discord.
Yeah.
So I thought you had to use that.
No, with the native webhook, you can do it direct.
Oh, cool.
Well, direct through GHL. Yeah. And then that is the next integration that we're working on. Once we get those native integrations working, then you won't even need to use GHL or Zapier. You can just go direct to the platform.
Oh, brilliant.
And there's pros and cons to that. So like, for example, if a client wants to be able to see the entire conversation flow, having it still go through GHL is going to be necessary, because then the entire conversation is native in that contact. But other people might not use GHL. So it's like, it's kind of a given, all the things that we are releasing, you might not need to use it if it's not needed for your use case.
That makes sense.
So I had to make sure I word that right. But yeah. So, and if anybody ever has any questions about that, we're happy to help figure out and because there's like 3 different layers. There's webhooks. It's confusing. We know. So we're happy to help for anything.
I appreciate it.
Of course. Let me just, Tim, can you remind me, send GHL video to Discord?
Yep. I will write that down now.
Okay. Thank you. Cool.
One very quick question, Ross.
Yeah.
In the conversation flows in the back end, is there a way to extract the conversation data without hooking to a CRM system?
How would you like to have that? Would it be like a download as a text file or download as like a CSV or what? Like there's not, that functionally does not exist. So we would have to add it. So I'm just asking, I'm kind of flipping it back. How would you like to have that?
I think probably a CSV, so it could integrate into a system if we needed to. But the question really is around data protection and GDPR for the UK.
Okay.
So it's about how we can be transparent with the data that stays in the system and how a user of the platform could have that information within their records and control. Because at the moment there isn't a way, and they can get it, but they have to go in and cut and paste every conversation, and that's really sort of quite laborious. If there is a button that says either extract in bulk or extract conversation 1 or 10 or whatever that might be, then that would be really useful.
Would you like it to also be potentially automated?
With a webhook, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, right. I'm like thinking, I'm going down that,
Yeah.
4 chess moves ahead, and like, oh, we got to get a webhook for that too.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, obviously the more conversations an individual chatbot has, there's an awful lot of context that starts to get built up in that database of toing and throwing of questions and answers, and that's invaluable for a brand to sort of know more about. So you could probably take a conversation stream, feed that back into ChatGPT as a separate exercise, and say, analyze me this data and tell me what the context is, or do that in bulk as an upload and say, could we take all of this data and then show me trends on the types of conversations we're having within this specific industry niche.
That's a cool idea that I think extends off of what you're talking about. So Tim, can you make an issue for, I think CSV download, I think makes sense.
Yeah, that'll be very simple. And then you want a webhook for the conversations once they're
completed.
Although what is complete? Because what to continue talking
you're
about.
not sure where you're going to send that conversation, are you? Unless you've got a specific.
I guess, yeah. I was thinking, what does it mean when a conversation is complete? Because we may not know.
We could do a timeout or something.
Yeah.
It's like, if we have not received the message in X amount of time, that considers it a completed conversation.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, let's keep talking about it. But and we'll get the one for the CSV because that's simple enough. And let's keep talking about the webhook one because we'll have to define what is the best way. We could have like maybe it sends it once a day, or we could do it after a certain amount of time with no response, and then it keeps updated. But that's very interesting what you said, Tim, I think about the analytics, because you're right. I mean, as these conversations get built up, that's a huge amount of context. And you could see sending that to ChatGPT and saying, hey, look at these conversations and tell me what the most important thing my customers are asking about. And normally with a normal analytics solution, you couldn't do that, right? Because some of these conversations are going to literally be about the same concept, but slightly different. And so you can't group them. But with ChatGPT, it understands context and fully. So it could relate certain things that weren't previously relatable before. And it could come by to the business and say, well, the most important thing is that you don't sell, blue dogs. And that's a horrible example, but yeah, it could be really interesting. We'll have to continue to talk about those things at these office hours.
And there's another feature that on top that is related to that. That's daily email analytics. I mean, it's all related to the analytics module, but it's like a daily email summary of like, here's the conversations that were happened today. Here's the summary of those conversations. The idea is like give more visibility and function on a consistent basis to have visibility over the conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say something real quick. There's interesting new feature though that I'm thinking there. I was using a new tool called Descript. I know it's not new for a lot of people. It's new for me. They allow you to query the transcription after it's translated. So we could offer essentially something like that, where you could go into a conversation and then it would be in ChatGPT, like visually, where you could query a conversation. So you could be like, you could ask, what was this person wanting? Or what did this person want? And then ChatGPT will have the entire transcription of the conversation and be able to be like, oh, John was interested in selling his home for 20% more. And he's like, it will give you that summary. And I think what we could do is offer that on a conversation basis, but also as an account basis too, like a sub account basis, to where we could have it query all of it up until 128,000 character tokens. That's an interesting.
Yeah, and relatedly, Ross, we need to continue to help build that feedback loop, because we need the ability for the bot to notify the primary user whenever it has been asked a question that it doesn't know the answer to, and send like an email and request a response, because we can do that. We have a model for doing that. We just need to implement that. And then there's other related things like upvotes, asking the customer, did I solve your problem, and letting them give direct feedback to the bot. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff we can do to improve these things over time and make it easier to define what the chatbot needs to do.
Yeah. That being said, we're working on marketplace, we're working on
Yep.
integrations, we're working on all these other things. Is there anything major that you guys are thinking of that are or that we're lacking or that we're missing? Do you guys see, like, just kind of this is just an open-ended question. Anybody can answer.
No, not really.
I mean, the only thing that this jumps back to a previous office hours, we were talking about the core integrations of things to deal with. I haven't got a use case for it because obviously I'm still new to this. But the only other thing I could think of is if you're doing any form of booking with the thing, if you are booking, could it integrate with Stripe and take payments in the chat, as in go, here's a link to a Stripe checkout page, like the way they've done it, and know that, okay, yeah, we've booked this, you've paid £50 for your one-on-one consultation, be it a sales consult or whatnot, and then boom, yes, we're booked in. It was a random use case I was thinking of the other day.
That would be a really good one for coaches and consultants, and there's a good use case for that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know again whether there's the Zapier trail of it, but in my head, I'm thinking then that's going to be being like, oh, we've emailed you a link, as opposed to boom, there and then, the instant kind of checkout style scenario of just boom, do it. Because I believe Stripe has, I may be going mad, they have some form of save your account details now, kind of to instant checkout.
Link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, link. So yeah, whether it would work with that at all.
Interesting.
We'll have to do some digging on that. It would be able to provide the link. I'm not sure how we would be able to, because
in theory you would get an authorization request sent back. But again, I don't know how, from your point of coding, whether it's going to go, yes, okay, boom, now we're going to confirm that diary slot, or.
So if the product was created in your Stripe connected account that's connected to Stammer, it would be quite easy for us to detect if a payment has been made, because Stripe sends us events, webhooks essentially. So definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Now, if it's in another Stripe account that's not connected to us, I don't know if Stripe has the ability to connect to like a separate non-connect account. But basically, Ross is right. We'll have to do some digging. So definitely let us know if that's a use case that you think is so valuable that, it'd be worth pursuing.
Thinking through it, though, it might be easier for the end user to pay, and then that payment redirects them to the booking page. So because there's no way for us to collect payment inside the chat, which means we're breaking the conversational aspect of the value add. So the conversational aspect of the AI chatbot gets them to the link of the Stripe checkout, which could be any Stripe link that you add into the base system prompt that is corresponding in the base system prompt to send this link to when the user wants to book a meeting. So instead of having it be connected through the scheduling, you would just have it be a normal, quote unquote, normal AI agent in the base system prompt that you would train to then say, when a user wants to book, you would do it the same exact way, but it said, instead of doing the actual scheduling, it would send them this Stripe link. They click the Stripe link, they go and pay, and then when they complete the payment, it brings them to a normal booking page. In my mind, that is the use case that would actually happen versus them being redirected back to the conversation and then having to work in the conversation to then book the meeting.
I mean, even if it was something like send out a link, and it's like, okay, we've reserved, the Stammer has reserved the slot where we've emailed you a link to pay. Please make sure you do it before your meeting, and in some way, whether it's through logic in Zapier or whatnot, it's like, okay, well, this hasn't been paid, so send them a reminder email saying you haven't paid. And if it has, so the conversationally, you're done and dusted. But if you haven't paid, then your slot is going to get unbooked as such, something like that. But yes, it was just a thing because of thinking of seeing a consultant kind of thing. So
I'll keep researching that and see what we can come up with.
I have a really quick booking one. How would you do if you have a team? Let's say you have the realtor examples. Imagining you have a real estate agency with multiple agents, as I found out it is around here, you can't really use the bot to book a meeting since there's more people involved. So is there any way to let the bot book a meeting knowing there's more people and kind of work out with that, if you follow me?
Yeah, so this would be considered round robin booking.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll probably have to do this after group booking.
Makes sense. Yeah.
The functionality of this will be if in that use case, you would have multiple people connect their Google Calendar to the bot or to that system. And then the dropdown would say, instead of single event or group booking, it would say round robin. And then essentially it would match how Calendly sets this up, because that's essentially what we've been using to develop this from our point of view. Is it would allow you to control and select, okay, meeting 1 goes to John, meeting 2 goes to Sam, meeting 3 goes to Kira, or whatever.
Okay, makes sense.
And then that way that could be controlled.
Yeah. So that's something that could be possible.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just something that came up. It's not really a hot topic for me for now, but
okay.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Another way you could do this is inside GHL. So inside GHL, when the lead comes, well, I would say you could do the round robin. You could do like the routing inside GHL.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, if that's something that you thought of in the future, yeah, that could be cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Lots of these are good. Like we're getting into the thick of it now in terms of use cases and developing the feature set to meet those use cases. So
yeah, it seems that you got the fundamentals pretty solid. So now's the time for these
exactly.
Smaller things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly that's the exact definition of our building blocks.
Yeah, I know.
Mentality is get something out and stable and then build up from there. Alrighty. Well, this is a long one, but this is a good one. Excited to keep sharing all these updates, and talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, hopefully seeing you Thursday.
Yeah, that's right.
Thursday. Thanks, Ross.
See everyone else on next Tuesday. Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Cheers.
See ya. Cheers.